Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're diving into an explosive topic: 10 countries that 100% support North Korea against the United States. While the US has remained at the forefront of international pressure on North Korea for its nuclear program and military actions, several countries have shown unwavering support for the North Korean regime. But why would they back a state that often challenges global peace? What drives these nations to stand with Pyongyang against Washington's influence? Be sure to like, subscribe, and watch till the end as we break down the shocking reasons behind these alliances. Let's dive in. Number 10. Laos. Laos has historically maintained a friendly relationship with North Korea, rooted in shared anti-imperialist values and a mutual desire for sovereignty in the face of external pressure. Laos, a landlocked country in Southeast Asia, has often aligned itself with North Korea in international forums, particularly through the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Both nations have been subjected to US sanctions and international criticism, and this has created a diplomatic bond between them. Laos has supported North Korea's right to pursue its nuclear program, seeing it as a form of self-defense against US influence in the region. The Lao government, like Pyongyang, has emphasized the importance of independence and non-interference in national affairs, while Laos does not have significant military or economic ties with North Korea. Its support for Pyongyang stems from solidarity with countries that face similar struggles against Western powers. The emotional connection is largely shaped by Laos' experience with foreign intervention, particularly during the Vietnam War when it was heavily bombed by the US. Laos views North Korea's resistance to Western sanctions and military pressure as a symbol of strength and resilience. Despite being a smaller player on the world stage, Laos stands firm in its belief that countries like North Korea should not be forced to relinquish their sovereignty or nuclear capabilities under international pressure. Number 9. Venezuela, under the leadership of Nicolás Maduro, has been a strong supporter of North Korea, particularly in their shared opposition to US imperialism. Venezuela and North Korea both view the United States as an obstacle to their sovereignty and national independence. Venezuela's support for North Korea has grown in the context of its own struggle against US sanctions and diplomatic isolation. In 2017, when tensions were high between North Korea and the US, Venezuela expressed solidarity with Pyongyang, condemning the US for its military provocations and threats. Venezuela's government has repeatedly called for US intervention in Latin America to end, similarly to how North Korea seeks the removal of US forces in South Korea. Venezuela also sees North Korea's nuclear deterrence as a critical means of maintaining national security in the face of external threats. The emotional and ideological connection between the two countries is tied to their shared resistance to US hegemony. For Venezuela, North Korea is a symbol of defiance, an example of a nation standing strong against the most powerful military force in the world. The Venezuelan government's alliance with North Korea is a message of resistance to Western powers, reaffirming their commitment to sovereignty and self-determination. Number 8. Myanmar. Myanmar has been one of the countries that has expressed support for North Korea, especially after the 2017 coup that brought the military back into power. Myanmar's military junta has aligned itself with Pyongyang, largely due to shared anti-Western sentiments and opposition to international condemnation. Myanmar, like North Korea, has faced economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation due to its controversial internal policies, including the treatment of the Rohingya minority. North Korea and Myanmar share a commitment to national sovereignty and have historically avoided interference from the US and Western powers. The Myanmar military is engaged in military cooperation with North Korea, including arms deals and training, which has strengthened their relationship. The emotional connection between Myanmar and North Korea lies in their shared experiences as isolated states that have defied the international community. Myanmar sees the North Korean regime as an ally in resisting Western pressures, particularly the sanctions imposed by the United States and its allies. The support for North Korea is a reflection of Myanmar's desire to protect its sovereignty and defy international pressures. Despite the challenges facing both countries, Myanmar's military government continues to view North Korea as a critical partner in its struggle against foreign intervention. Number 7. Zimbabwe. Under Robert Mugabe, and later the government of Emerson Mnangagwa, has had a long-standing relationship with North Korea, grounded in mutual anti-imperialist sentiments and a shared resistance to Western influence. Zimbabwe and North Korea's cooperation has included arms deals, military training, and assistance in military infrastructure. In the early 2000s, Zimbabwe reportedly imported military equipment from North Korea, including artillery and ammunition, which was crucial during its internal struggles and international isolation. North Korea's willingness to provide military aid to Zimbabwe was seen as a sign of solidarity against Western sanctions and pressure. The emotional connection between Zimbabwe and North Korea lies in their shared struggles for sovereignty and self-reliance. Both countries have been isolated by Western nations due to their human rights records and policies. Zimbabwe's support for North Korea is rooted in a desire to maintain autonomy and a shared understanding of the economic and political pressures exerted by Western powers. For Zimbabwe, North Korea represents a strategic ally in a world where Western powers continue to impose restrictions on their sovereignty. Their alliance underscores a desire for mutual protection and support in the face of global isolation. Number 6. Angola. Angola has historically maintained friendly relations with North Korea, particularly during the period of civil war and after the end of Portuguese colonial rule. Angola received military assistance from North Korea during its civil conflict, including weapons and training. While the relationship has evolved over time, Angola has expressed consistent support for North Korea, particularly in forums such as the United Nations. Angola's emotional support for North Korea stems from their shared anti-colonial and anti-imperialist sentiments. Like North Korea, Angola has been the target of international sanctions and foreign interference due to its domestic policies and political landscape. North Korea's defiance of U.S. influence has resonated with Angola's government, which views itself as part of a broader movement of resisting Western domination. Angola has been sympathetic to North Korea's struggles for sovereignty and self-determination. While the relationship is more diplomatic than military in recent years, Angola continues to support North Korea's right to develop its nuclear weapons. For Angola, North Korea represents a symbol of resistance against global powers that seek to dictate the path of nations in the developing world. Number 5. Cuba, like North Korea, has faced decades of U.S. economic sanctions and military pressure, and as a result, the two nations have developed a strong bond of mutual support. Cuba's support for North Korea is grounded in shared anti-imperialist ideals, with both countries viewing the U.S. as a common adversary. Cuba's backing of North Korea dates back to the Cold War, when the two nations found themselves aligned in their resistance to Western domination. Cuba has consistently defended North Korea's sovereignty and has been one of the most vocal critics of U.S. policies aimed at isolating Pyongyang. In return, North Korea has expressed solidarity with Cuba's struggle against U.S. sanctions and its desire to maintain independence from foreign influence. The emotional connection between Cuba and North Korea stems from their shared experiences as small, isolated nations fighting for survival against much larger powers. In recent years, Cuban officials have called for the lifting of sanctions against North Korea, arguing that economic sanctions hurt ordinary citizens and prevent both nations from achieving prosperity. Cuba's commitment to standing with North Korea is a reflection of its broader foreign policy principles, which emphasize solidarity with nations suffering from U.S. hegemony and intervention. Number 4. Syria has been a vocal supporter of North Korea, largely due to their shared resistance to Western intervention. Both nations view the U.S. as a destabilizing force in their regions, with North Korea opposing the U.S. presence in East Asia and Syria opposing Western-backed efforts to overthrow Assad's regime. Syria has maintained strong diplomatic ties with North Korea, and while not as publicly supportive as China or Russia, it has provided moral support to Pyongyang. Syria's government has long struggled with the threat of external intervention, and it views North Korea's defiance of U.S. pressure as an inspiring example. In addition, North Korea has provided Syria with military assistance over the years, including weapons and military training, which has only further solidified their relationship. In return, Syria has been supportive of North Korea's nuclear ambitions, often voicing opposition to Western sanctions and military threats against Pyongyang. The emotional connection for Syria is tied to survival and sovereignty. Syria's battle against the U.S.-led coalition and the ongoing civil war have reinforced its belief in the importance of having powerful allies like North Korea, who share the common goal of resisting foreign interference and preserving national autonomy. Number 3. Iran. Iran has consistently supported North Korea, particularly in their shared defiance of U.S. influence. Both countries view the United States as a common enemy, with North Korea opposing U.S. military dominance in East Asia and Iran challenging U.S. influence in the Middle East. Tehran and Pyongyang have shared interests in resisting Western powers, making their cooperation a strategic alliance in the fight for sovereignty and self-determination. Iran has repeatedly condemned U.S. policies toward North Korea, calling them aggressive and unjust. In return, North Korea has expressed support for Iran's nuclear ambitions, including its nuclear program, which has drawn ire from the West. Iran has been a vocal advocate for North Korea in international forums, urging the United Nations to ease sanctions and promoting dialogue between Pyongyang and the West. The emotional connection between Iran and North Korea is deeply tied to their shared sense of resistance. For Iran, North Korea represents a partner in defiance of the U.S., one that has successfully pursued its nuclear program despite immense international pressure. Iran views North Korea's ability to survive under sanctions as a symbol of strength and independence, and the alliance between the two countries underscores their shared belief in the necessity of nuclear deterrence against external threats. Number 2, Russia. Russia has long maintained a close relationship with North Korea, rooted in shared geopolitical interests and mutual defiance of U.S. influence. Since the end of the Cold War, Russia has sought to increase its influence in the Asia-Pacific region, often aligning itself with countries that challenge U.S. dominance. In the case of North Korea, Russia has offered diplomatic and economic support despite international sanctions. Russia views North Korea as a counterbalance to U.S. power in the region and sees its nuclear arsenal as a deterrent against American influence. Vladimir Putin, in particular, has made it clear that Russia's support for North Korea stems from the belief that Pyongyang's sovereignty must be respected. In 2017, while Russia supported sanctions against North Korea, it consistently advocated for diplomatic solutions and has been critical of U.S. military presence in South Korea. The emotional aspect of Russia's support comes from its desire to maintain influence over global security matters. Russian officials often describe the U.S. as the main provocateur in the region, accusing Washington of escalating tensions with its military buildup. Russia's continued support for North Korea is also driven by a desire to weaken the international isolation of the North and maintain Russia's position as a significant power broker on the world stage. Number 1, China. China has been North Korea's most powerful and consistent ally, both politically and economically. The relationship between the two nations is driven by historical ties, geographic proximity, and shared anti-Western sentiments. China, which shares a long border with North Korea, views its neighbor as a strategic buffer against U.S. influence in the region. In the face of U.S. military presence in South Korea and Japan, China believes that supporting North Korea ensures regional stability and prevents the expansion of Western military alliances on its doorstep. In 2017, during the height of tensions over North Korea's nuclear tests, China vetoed some U.S.-backed UN sanctions, asserting its position as Pyongyang's protector. China is North Korea's largest trading partner, providing essential supplies including oil, food, and other commodities. Beijing has continuously emphasized the importance of dialogue over confrontation, advocating for a peaceful resolution to the crisis. The emotional aspect of China's support is rooted in national pride and security concerns. For China, the survival of North Korea is crucial to its own geopolitical strategy. China also fears that a collapse of the North Korean regime could lead to an influx of refugees and a unified Korea aligned with the West, potentially undermining Chinese influence in East Asia. These nations stand in firm support of North Korea, driven by shared experiences of defiance and resistance to U.S. dominance. Their alliance reflects a global struggle for sovereignty in the face of international pressure. Like, comment, and subscribe for more insights into global politics and international relations. See you next time.